Hola chicos! In this presentation, we're going to talk about three main things, and they're all going to work together. The first thing is the verb I. The second thing is preposiciones or prepositions, and the third thing is del, which is one of the only contractions in Spanish. So let's get started. I is this awesome verb that we can use to say a lot of things without even having to conjugate it, so that's pretty cool. So the first thing we can say is there is. So if I want to say, there is a bicycle in my garage, I would use I. Hay una bicicleta en mi garaje. And the cool thing about I is that we don't have to conjugate it to make it plural. So in the next slide, we'll look at some specific examples of what that looks like. So right now, you need to fill out your chart that says I means there is. It means there are. If we put it into a question, it means is there or are there. And then I want you to add two boxes to your chart on the bottom, and I want you to write no I next to it. And I apologize if my camera shot is covering on the bottom right. It just says no I. And that means there isn't or there aren't. And that's it. It's all the same. The only difference we did to make it negative was to drop a no right in front of it. That's all you have to do. So that's pretty cool. We'll see how versatile this verb really is. So what are some examples? Well, if I want to say there is, I could say hay un árbol en mi jardín. There is a tree in my garden or in my yard, right? Hay dos árboles en mi jardín. So we've gone from there is a tree to there are two trees. We didn't have to change I. Is there a tree in your garden? Hay un árbol en tu jardín? Or again, to plural, no change. Hay unos árboles en tu jardín? So you see how it's super easy to work with? If you want to make it negative, no hay un árbol en mi jardín. There's not a tree in my yard or garden. No hay unos árboles en mi jardín. There's not trees in my garden. So that whole time, the only moment in which we had to change it was to put a no in front of it. And that's it. Pretty easy. So let's see, how can we use this I with some prepositions? So in your grammar study guide, you know that there are 4 prepositions for this chapter. And what do they all mean? So if we want to say next to, we would say al lado de. Al lado de. Behind is detrás de. Detrás de. We want to make sure that A sounds like an A. Detrás de instead of detrás, right? Adelante de. Adelante de. We know that a D between two vowels makes a the sound, so it's not adelante, it's adelante de. And around, alrededor de. That one's a little difficult, alrededor de. So you'll notice that all of these prepositions are followed by a de. What does de mean? We know de means of or from in some cases. And in English, out of these 4, the only one that uses the of is in front of. But that's okay, because we're in Spanish, right? So why do they have a de? Because it's Spanish. So when we use these prepositions, we have to use the de, okay? So here we go. We're going to use I in our prepositions to talk about the White House. So I could say, hay árboles delante de la casa. So think about what that might mean. There are trees in front of the house. So we're talking about these guys right here, right? Hay un jardín muy grande. There's a very large yard or garden. Hay flores rojos alrededor de la casa. There's red flowers around the house. So let's imagine these red flowers go all the way around. Pero no hay flores azules. So we can see how using I in our prepositions, we can answer the question, what is your house like? Okay? So this would be a great description if you had to describe your own house, which you will, okay? So finally, we're going to look at what is this del? What is this only contraction? Well, in Spanish, when you have de and el together in a sentence, they become one and they become del. But you've heard me say that there are no apostrophes in Spanish, and that's true. So this is a contraction without an apostrophe. So what do I mean by that? If we have de la, we can leave it as de la. We don't have to do anything. So our example sentence down here. Hay un árbol al lado de la casa. There is a tree next to the house. De la sounds perfect. But what if I don't want the tree to be next to the house? What if the tree is actually next to the garage? Well, garage is masculine, so it has an el. So if I had de and el next to each other, I can't leave it the same. I have to join them. And so what that looks like is, hay un árbol al lado del garaje. So there is a tree next to the garage. And the reason for that is a phonetic purpose. In Spanish, you'll notice that a lot of times it is not easy to pronounce or pleasing to the ear to have two vowel sounds that are the exact same right next to each other. Because we would have to say al lado de el garaje. And that just sounds goofy. So instead of saying de el, we just say del and we shorten it, okay? No apostrophes, no nonsense. And now you've learned one of the two contractions in Spanish, and that's it. And we'll practice this and put this into play. So if you have any questions for me, let me know. Other than that, you've learned all about I, preposiciones, and del. Good luck. See you in class.